Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com, now powered by lineups.com. I'm your host, Nate Weitzer. Another solo show here as my co-host Josh Lander welcomes his firstborn. Big congrats to my boy there. We had a little break here over Memorial Day weekend, but we're back with Game 5 of Pacers at Knicks, seeing if that series will stay alive. If we have another game in that Thunder Wolves series, we will be bringing you that as well, and any more games we have in this conference finals. But then it's on to the NBA finals. So we will be bringing you a show per game as long as we can here. As far as Game 5, do we think the series is going to be extended? I do not. I am taking Pacers in a variety of ways. Game 5 here at the Garden. You can split the unit as I did in any variety of ways. I mean, Pacers +5, it's wrong team favored in my opinion. Pacers, so you might as well go Pacers money line, and then you can even look at Pacers -2.5, -3.5, and start getting some real plus money on that end. I mean, it's just aside from that one Game 3 blip where the Pacers had that lapse, they've clearly been the superior team. They're getting better shots every time down the floor. As we know, Tyrese Halliburton just painted a masterpiece with 15 assists and no turnovers. But that just speaks to where the Knicks are at defensively, like out of answers. They cannot pressure him. They cannot do anything to disrupt this Pacers depth and the way they spread the ball around Halliburton. And then on the other end, everything is like moving boulders for Brunson and Cat, who are getting picked on constantly defensively, right? I mean, they've had to defend about 30 pick and rolls per game, and then they just don't have a ton of energy to go on the offensive end, especially Brunson, who's getting all eyes on him. They're daring the other three wings as far as who's normally starting to hit some shots, to make some plays, and they're inconsistent, to say the least. I mean, but even if the Knicks are able to, hang in this for the first half, I've got a bet for that. Come out strong, in defense of their season. They've really struggled in the second half. They have a 142 defensive rating in the second half of these first two at the Garden. It was 151 against Indy's offense in the fourth quarter in those two, as we know, the incredible comeback in Game 1. And some people were sitting after that Game 1 like, was that a fluke? Like, it seemed like the Knicks kind of dominated, and that they didn't dominate. It was an even game. It was an up and down game. It was the Pacers style of game. And then you transpose that into Game 2, where it was actually a slower game. It was a Knicks game, but even at that slower pace, the Pacers just out executed them in the fourth quarter, just still absolutely shredded them. And it's just a question of, like, if you're gonna back the Knicks, do you believe this team can get stops in crunch time in a close game? Because it's certainly possible that the Pacers get blown out, but I see it as very unlikely. I think we are probably headed towards another close finish, if not a Pacers runaway, because they are just have that superior depth, because they are so good on the road. Halliburton seems to love playing at the Garden. His body language is something I'm really reading into as far as like following up that performance with another really poised performance, because you saw after the game, there was none of the usual like front runner stuff, taunting or pumping everybody up. It was just like, focus, like one more. I think that's what he said to Siakam, like one more time to go get this win at the Garden. As somebody who relishes in silencing the Garden, I could see them definitely going all out for this win, trying to win it in 5, rather than saying, "Oh, we got one in our back pocket at home." And so I think the Pacers close it out. If not, I think they can at least cover 5. It's wrong team favored as far as what I've seen in the series so far. Just a much more cohesive team, and somebody who's coaching the pants off Tibbs, as far as what Carlisle is doing to him with all his options. So another way to play this is that the Knicks actually win the first half, which has happened all 4 in this series, that the home team has won the first half. And then we've had some crazy comebacks for sure. But I would just hope Knicks can get a little bit of a lead at halftime. And then you take Pacers full time at plus 600. I mean, and you can get plus 300 for Pacers halftime, Pacers full time. And then as long as you get a Pacers win and not a tie at halftime, you're collecting money here. So I think it's just another way to back the Pacers here, because basically, what I'm saying is, like, the Knicks might come out strong, but the depth of the Pacers will run them down. It has happened basically every game except game 3, which was a strange outlier. It was just like Cat spinning out of control into a bunch of buckets, which, happened a little bit in game 4 as well. I don't know how healthy Cat is going to be at this point. That's a big wild card. He seemed to really hurt his knee down the stretch. And honestly, I'd be more worried as a Pacers backer if he just didn't play. Or if Tibbs, pulls the plug on him early and it's just like, you know what, we're going to lean into our defensive identity and then we can actually get stops, because we saw what happened that game 3 when Brunson was off the floor, when he was in foul trouble. It was a much better defensive effort from the Knicks to actually string together stops to actually get back in the game and pull out a win. That seems to be the recipe. They cannot defend with Cat and Brunson on the floor at the same time. I believe they're like negative 30 in this series. Like they have no chance defensively. Halliburton is picking either one to go at and to just pick the weak point there and get a great shot every time. I talked about that second half stuff. I mean, Indy is averaging 63 per game in the second half, excluding that game 3 where Brunson was off the floor. The 2 fourth quarters at MSG, 66% true shooting, only a 2% turnover rate for this Pacers offense. So that matches the eye test as far as being like, are the Knicks going to get a stop here? Like maybe if they like stumble into one and Josh Hart comes flying in for an unlikely rebound. Otherwise, they just don't seem to have any answers. I mean, do you think the Pacers are going to fold too? That's another body language thing, another like intangibles. Like because they did fold. If you think back to Game 5 last year against the Knicks, where they got absolutely run out of the building by 30. Then went back, forced to Game 7, won that game. That was some growing up. They've done a lot of growing up this postseason as well. And what I'm saying with Halliburton is he seems to have like gotten a little bit over that immature, like taunting self, and is very focused as far as like, let me just get this win. Let's get to the NBA Finals and level up here. So I don't think that the Pacers would fold, even if they are down 10, as we saw, like against these crazy comebacks several times this playoffs. Even if they're down 10 at the half, I think they could come back and run the Knicks down quite literally with their insane pace. So let's get into a couple player props here. Both are going to be on the Pacers side. Miles Turner, I'm going under 21.5 PRA. His value is not necessarily his scoring. He's actually a dreadful rebounder for his size. Especially in the series, he is dead last among the 10 Pacers that have been in the rotation in terms of his rebound chance rate. He's grabbing just 3.5 of his 10 rebound chances per game. The last 2 in Indy, he actually had 2 assists per game on 1.5 potential assists per game. So somehow outperforming the potential passes there. Going back to the rebound, he's implied minus 160 at places to not get to 6 rebounds. So if we're talking like a projection of maybe 6-7 peripheral stats, yes, that's where his line's at. Yes, he's at 14.5 points. Is he going to get there? I mean, not if the Knicks close out on him. And he's shown a reluctance to shoot threes that are even marginally being closed out on. Since that hot start in the first quarter, there were a couple times down the stretch of the last 2 games in Indy where it looked like Turner had an open 3, like a dagger 3 in the third and the fourth, and he just didn't feel it. He just pump faked and kicked it back out to Halliburton to get something else. And the stats match up to it. In the second half this series, he's only shooting 20% from 3. In the fourth quarter, he's 1 for 6. He's a minus 16 and averaging 4.5 points, 1.5 rebounds in the fourth quarter of these games. So since really he got off to that hot start in game 1, the Knicks have just keyed in on him as like, just don't let this dude pick and pop. Get up on his above the break threes, especially. They held the Pacers to 27% as a team on above the break trays in games 3 and 4. So yeah, that's the whole system, and that's what Miles Turner wants to do. They did lose him on some dunks and stuff, and that's going to be a problem. But I mean, he's even with that, he's still gone under in 3 or 4 of this series. He even went under in game 1 after dropping about 11 in the first quarter. And you look at road home stuff, he averages 2 points per game fewer in his playoff career on the road, shoots 10% worse. If you count the last 2 playoffs, 37% from 3 on the road versus 47% at home. So I think there's enough there to fade Turner. As far as the whole bundle here, I mean, the peripheral stats are low enough that might be where you want to go on your own if you get a good odds there. But I'm not worried about him scoring 16 plus to necessarily get over that hump. But do hope TJ McConnell here gets over just 7.5 points. That's all we need. So that's all you get. You can hope for usually when you get a guy playing 15 to 20 minutes, but he obviously comes off the bench with a rocket up his ass and he's just flying around there. I mean, he was averaging 10.7 and 3 in just 14 and a half minutes in the first 3 this series. So if you wanted to add the assist there, that is an argument, but he went up to 19 minutes in game 4, 6 points, 3 assists, came up short of this prop. So now we get a little more value on the points. But as far as like his drive data, it's right there behind Halliburton's second most drives on the team, despite the lower minutes. He has a very high assist rate when he's out there, constantly putting pressure on the defense. It's like, a mouse around an elephant, basically, with this Knicks defense. Like he's just spinning them in circles. They're so big and so bulky that they can't deal with a guy like McConnell, who's just getting into the seams, hits all those weird shots in the mid-range, or just gets all the way to the basket in transition. And, he's kind of a guy who wears on you as the series goes along, kind of the personification of that in terms of the Final Four against the Knicks last year, not the Final Four NCAA style, the Final Four games of the playoffs against the Knicks in that 7-game series. He averaged 12.3 and 6.5 dimes. He was a plus 31 in 20 minutes per game as the Pacers just slowly wore down that really shorthanded Knicks team. And they're not as shorthanded now, but they are very tired. They are very banged up. And like I said, they keep exploiting their 2 offensive guys on defense. And McConnell keeps the pressure on that when Halliburton's off the floor briefly. He maintains their pace with the second unit. And he went over in 11 of his final 12 playoff games last year, including that stretch against the Knicks. He was very good against the Celtics after Halliburton got hurt. He's very good against the Bucks, very good in closeout games. The last 2 against the Bucks this postseason, he averaged 16 and a half in 19 and a half minutes. So again, as you wear down a little bit, McConnell seems to be able to push that advantage. That's why I think 8 points, not a huge bar for him to clear here in this big game 5. So that is all the time we have for you here today. Hopefully we'll be back with a little more conference finals action on Thursday and Friday. But until we see you next, happy betting.